Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another Seventh Planet Broadcasting. I'm your host, Krista Clark, on behalf of our beloved and late Gerald Clark, the best-selling author of The Anunnaki Nibiru. I'm here to try to keep his message alive and as well as continue to enlighten us all with bringing wonderful guests on to give us topics that maybe we don't know about. I know I'm very excited to have our guest on, Erik Casano of Aquarian Alchemy, where we're going to learn all about the wonderful world of lucid dreaming, which honestly, I'm really excited to tap into. I even tried some of his methods last night and it started to work. So I really recommend looking more into what he has to offer, as well as breathing techniques. I'm a huge fan, being a yogi myself and having gone to India as well. So let's dive into today's episode. Well, hi, everyone. Welcome back to another Seven Planet Broadcasting. I'm your host, Krista Clark, and today I'm joined with Erik Casano, the founder of Aquarian Alchemy, and I'm really excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's fun to be here.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on, and shout out to Christian Rasmussen with Minnesota Nice Botanicals for introducing us and fostering the connection. So thank you, Christian. And if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about who you are for the audience, if they're not familiar with your work or your company, and a little bit about your personal journey.
Cool. Well, yeah, so my name is Erik Casano, and I run this wellness brand called Aquarian Alchemy. I have a retreat center I run here in Malibu, California, and I mainly focus on rebirthing breathwork, lucid dreaming, and ice baths are some of my top three favorite mind expanding and healing techniques. But I also focus on health and wellness. So I'm a big fan of distilled water, and I'm also a big fan and an ambassador and a partner in this company called Cocoa Bear. We're the only frozen, or I should say flash frozen coconuts in the world, because if you try to freeze a coconut, they explode. So I teamed up with this company, Cocoa Bear, and we figured out how to successfully freeze a coconut, ship it around the world frozen, and then we defrost the coconut and the customer drinks it. So it's like getting it right off the tree. And we're in Whole Foods in the West Coast right now, and we're also in Air One in Los Angeles. So I'm all about hydrating people and helping people breathe deep and focus their mind so they can have lucid dreams and understand their subconscious mind a little better.
And would you mind kind of telling us a little bit about lucid dreaming? Like, what's the difference between a lucid dream and a vivid dream? I know I have very vivid dreams, but haven't quite mastered the lucid dreaming. So maybe you could give us a differentiation on that.
For sure. So a vivid dream just means that the dream is very clear and perhaps you remember it very well. A lucid dream means that you know that you're dreaming. So you could have a lucid dream that's not very vivid, or you could have a lucid dream that's very vivid. Yeah, the lucid dreaming is essentially just a side effect of concentration, or some people call it meditation. So when you close your eyes and you focus on, let's say, a mantra right before bed, because you just worked on your concentration, that can make you lucid at night. In other words, you're dreaming and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a dream. Usually when people dream, we don't know it's a dream. We're kind of like a dream victim. And I don't like to use the word victim because it's all about empowering ourselves, of course. So if you're having a dream and you don't know it's a dream, you're a victim to circumstance. Your subconscious mind is in complete control, and you have no conscious awareness. And that moment that a person becomes lucid, all of a sudden their conscious mind and their subconscious mind merge, and you get to realize, oh wow, this is a dream. And then you get to start making conscious choices in your dream. But even though there is kind of an on and off switch from lucid to not being lucid, there's also a spectrum, and the spectrum is kind of like zombie to Buddha and anything in between. But there does seem to be a gauge occasionally when you have that aha moment. Oh my God, this is a dream. Sometimes you'll hear people will say things like, I thought it was a dream. I started thinking it was a dream, and then I slipped out. Or people will become lucid for a moment, and then they'll slip out of lucidity, and they'll say, "Oh, I don't know it's a dream anymore." So that's why I like to say it's a spectrum from zombie to Buddha. Kind of interesting perspective.
Oh, and do you think that by using lucid dreaming, we can use these methods to kind of reprogram our subconscious mind?
Absolutely. And ironically, um, when we work on reprogramming our subconscious mind through repetition, sometimes called autosuggestion, affirmations, or mantras, those three terms I'm going to say that's the same thing: autosuggestion, affirmations, or mantras. So when you reprogram the subconscious mind by repeating something, I want to let's say I want to be a gardener, and I want to be a nice guy and a gardener. So I could repeat in my head before I go to bed, I'm a nice gardener. I am a nice gardener. And you can literally visualize yourself being this kind gardener. And then a side effect of doing that reprogramming of the subconscious mind through autosuggestion, that will make you lucid in your dreams, or potentially it'll make you lucid. So, and then once you are lucid, yeah, you can, depending on how powerful your lucid dreaming is, or like depending on how much changes you can make in your lucid world, then you can also start reprogramming your subconscious mind. But I think reprogramming the subconscious mind starts with while you're conscious. So as long as you're conscious, you can make changes in your subconscious mind, whether you're awake or sleeping.
And then by using these affirmations before we go to bed, we can kind of, in a term, like manifest a different reality through lucid dreaming.
100%, 100%. I like to say, with the power of autosuggestion, we're able to start steering the ship where we want to take it. In other words, we can start navigating our life a little more efficiently, a little more consciously, with the power of repetition and autosuggestion.
Wow, wow. You know, I actually was watching a little bit on your YouTube channel, just to looking into some different things, and it's actually pretty new to me. And I've heard of other people that have done this, but it was kind of mind blowing. Like, really, you can actually be present in your dreams, and
Mhm.
and I tried last night before going to bed, like with the affirmations, and I noticed that the theme came up in the dream, but
Yes.
I didn't quite get fully conscious. But when I woke up, I realized, well, I was thinking that, and then it appeared in the dream, which was interesting.
That makes me very happy to hear that,
Yeah.
because I've also had some experiences lately where I didn't go lucid, but what I repeated in my head before going to bed manifested in the dream.
Right.
You know, I repeated that I wanted my house paid off, and like some things like this, and I woke, and in my dream I wasn't lucid, but I had my manifestation in my dream. I was
Wow.
like, wow, here I am. And so with lucidity, you can take it so much further. While having a great nighttime practice is absolutely essential for lucid dreaming, something that I have had issues with, and it's probably why I've understood lucid dreaming, is if you wake up early in the morning at like 4 a.m. and then you work on your concentration, that's also a powerful way to become lucid. When you're tired, when you're sleepy, your subconscious mind is very impressionable, and that's the best time to do your autosuggestion or mantras, would be when you're tired, especially before the sun rises. So if you have a great morning practice at, let's say, 4 a.m. and you repeat something for an hour, and then right before you go to bed you repeat something for an hour,
Mm.
that's probably going to make you lucid, because it's all about having a good morning practice and a good nighttime practice. I've done both. I've had just a nighttime practice and I saw what that's like, and I've done just a morning practice and I saw what that's like. But having both together, preparing for the day and preparing for sleep mentally, is super important for our manifestations, for our happiness, and for our concentration and awareness.
And do you think like combining visualization with that is also just takes it to another level when you kind of visualize that reality with your mantras?
Absolutely. I think it's, depending on how your mind works, it might be difficult to visualize while you're doing mantras, but you're welcome to do so. So if that's too difficult for me or you or whoever, you could do something like this. You could do a mantra for, let's say, 20 minutes, and then use your visual mind for like 20 minutes. So you just have to play with it, see where you're at. And the more you do breath work and the more you do visualization and mantras, you can actually like start combining these things together. So yeah, I would say, for anybody out there listening, try to visualize while you're doing mantras. It's not going to hurt to give it a shot.
Right, right. And I'm just curious, have you ever experienced like an out of body experience? And is that the same or is it different than lucid dreaming? Or what would you say on that?
So I definitely get asked this a lot. People, and I've read articles too, people say, is astral projection lucid dreaming? And the short answer is yes. So I think with the out of body experience, what you're probably referring to is called remote viewing, is seeing the room around me or seeing this reality in real time come through my third eye. Um, I've had glimpses, personally, I haven't worked on that muscle, but I've had glimpses of it that's happened unconsciously or naturally. So in other words, I've had times where I'm going to sleep, and as I'm falling asleep, I can see the room around me. It almost feels like my eye is open. I'm
Wow.
like, wow, I'm like looking at the room, and then I go into a lucid dream, which is like another dimension. So we are astral projecting when we have lucid dreams, but we're going into other dreams or other realities. But it is if you wanted to start doing remote viewing, astral projecting in that way, you could start just by closing your eyes and visualizing the room around you. And that's how you can get started with remote viewing.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't had success really with the out of body experience myself yet, but like you said, I haven't practiced that muscle probably enough
Mm-hmm.
to tap into it. But I've heard of people
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes they don't even try and it just happens for them. So I was curious,
Totally.
what it was like. And this is just kind of a funny thought. Sometimes I think about like dreams, like you're accessing maybe another dimension or another timeline or another version of yourself on a different reality. Do you ever think that's, something?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that's what's going on. I think that there are infinite realities. It's funny that in pop culture, the multiverse theme is really blowing up right now. And I think that what I notice is that every thought I have looks like a bubble, let's say metaphorically speaking, and you can go into that bubble and it's a whole nother universe. So you can dream about anything. That means there is a multiverse. There are infinite numbers of dreams that you can have with infinite numbers of scenarios. And there's a moment where you start dreaming. There's a moment, and whatever you're thinking about or visualizing at that moment is what you'll dream about. So if I wanted to dream about being on a beach in Lemuria, I could literally just visualize this beach on Lemuria. And if I'm able to hold with my concentration, if my concentration is strong enough, and I'm able to hold that visual picture as I fall asleep, in that moment I go into a dream, then I will dream about that visual image of the beach in Lemuria.
Wow.
So
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember the first time I ever heard it was many, many years ago. The first time I heard that you can live on other, or that you exist on other timelines and dimensions, it was like, what? But now I'm very like keen on it, believe that. And I was just curious, have you ever had like a Kundalini awakening or experience in your life?
yeah, it's how I talk about this on a lot of different podcasts, because a lot of people ask me, how did your spiritual life start? And so I'm 40 right now. I just turned 40. And when I was 27, I had my first Kundalini activation. And I didn't do it in class. I like to say Kundalini is an energy, not a type of yoga. So when I was 27, I got my hands on this. I wanted to learn about yoga, and I got my hands on this book called The Idiot's Guide to Chakras. Kind of silly, I know. And I had some very basic ideas about chakras and Kundalini energy. And at that point in my life, I had never heard of Kundalini energy. And it said in this book, and I gotta say that this is a little irresponsible of this book to be perfectly honest, but all good. Everything's perfect. Anyway, this book talked about Kundalini in a very small chapter. And it said this is energy at the base of your spine. If you raise this energy, you'll know the meaning of life. And I'm like, whose leg are you pulling here? I've never heard of this Kundalini stuff. And it said, if you want to awaken your Kundalini, take a deep breath, hold your breath, and do your Kegel exercises. Squeeze, release as you're holding your breath. And it said, if you're ready, you'll have a Kundalini experience. So I was like, well, let's give it a go. So I believed it would happen, not knowing what was going to happen. But I was like, yeah, I'm going to make this happen. this is exciting, even though I didn't know what I was about to get myself into. So I took a deep breath, held my breath, started doing my Kegel exercises, Mula Bandh or root lock or flexing the PC muscle. There's different names for doing a Kegel exercise. So held my breath, I started doing my Kegels, and I felt this energy go up my spine, and I was like, wow, this is getting really intense. And I did it again. Within 3, 4, 5 minutes, this energy went to my sixth chakra, exploded, it shot me back. I started shaking and laughing. I felt like I was on ecstasy. My heart was blasted open. And I said, well, this must be the Kundalini. And so I don't think my Kundalini energy went to my seventh chakra. That happens to some people, and it can be traumatizing if it's premature. In other words, if they didn't prepare their body for Kundalini. And you can prepare the body for Kundalini experience with fasting, detoxing, stretching, mantras, breath work. Of course, breath work is essential, is key for preparing the body for Kundalini. So for me, I think it went up to my sixth, and it lasted like 5, 6 months. It lasted like 5 months. Yeah. And it felt like ecstasy. It felt like my heart was blasted open. I became super nice, like really nice. Too nice. But I had all this energy, and I felt parts of my brain unlocking, and for like 5 hours a day, I was on my computer looking up things like, what is a pineal gland? What is Kundalini? I'm like, what did I do to myself?
Yeah. That's amazing. So it just kind of opened you to a whole new realm and shifted your timeline in a way, your life.
Yeah. It changed everything. Yeah. When the Kundalini energy kind of wore off after 5 months, the question I asked myself was, well, how do I get it back? And it was not through Kundalini yoga. And I really am serious about that one. So I found years later, rebirthing breathwork that's similar to holotropic breathwork. And that's how you get it back. That's how you get the blockages out of the way, the trauma, the blockages. That's how you get it out the way before you raise Kundalini. So I had what's called like a premature Kundalini awakening. I had a good time, but I didn't prepare my body for it. So I didn't like keep it. I still dealt with issues. I didn't work through my shadows and my negative karma before I raised my Kundalini. But again, I had a good time. I know I didn't go crazy, but it was like this is why I teach breathwork, because for people who want that kind of life, who want that kind of experience, you have to breathe deep for an hour and a half often to get the BS out of the way. So when Kundalini does happen, you're not unconsciously projecting your shadows all over people. And that's what we're seeing a lot in spiritual communities, is that people, they get a little psychic abilities, they get a little taste of DMT and Kundalini, and all of a sudden they're a shaman, and they're unconsciously projecting their negative karma onto people, thinking that they're healers, But I like to say I'm not a healer. I'm one who carries the knowledge of healing, and I'm more than happy to pass it on to people. So I'm just a regular dude.
Facilitator in a way. You're just facilitating the opening the door, and those that want to and are ready to walk through can. I'm
Absolutely.
curious. So when was your choice to decide to go to India, and kind of explain a little what that was like, where you went to, and did it kind of have a transformational aspect in your life?
Yeah, for sure. So the moment I learned rebirthing breathwork, and rebirthing breathwork is a term coined by a guy named Leonard Orr, who was a white guy from Virginia. The first time I did this style of breathwork, within 15 minutes of doing the breathing, I said, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for. I'm going to teach this to everybody. People need to know about this. This is very powerful. This is very amazing. And so I taught my friends here and there, just so I could understand how to teach this, just by, interning, so to speak. um, and then my teacher, Mahesh, he told me, he's like, Erik, if you really want to teach this, you need to come to India so I can train you properly. And he's like, I just do this 7-day training, and we'll do breathwork with the elements. So I'll get more into that later. And I said, great, let's do it. So a couple of years after learning breathwork, I went to Hadi Khan, India, the Hadi Khan ashram, where this guy Hadi Khan Babaji is from. So many people believe that Hadi Khan Babaji is Mavatar Babaji, but in another body. Either you subscribe to that or you don't.
Yeah.
So while I had already done a lot of breath work, I was very, very ready for this. It wasn't new to me. Going to India and going to the Himalayas is it's extraordinary. The way my teacher Mahesh explained India, he says that India is in shambles, but energetically it's a powerhouse. So Hadi Khan Ashram is it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's so heart opening. I felt so at peace there, so at home. Doing the breathwork training there was so fun. It was just beautiful. It was so healing for me, and it was activating. And while I had a great time there, I was also excited to get home and share this with people. I mean, geez, I could live there, honestly. I mean, I really need to spend longer than a week there, because it's I've never felt so comforted in my life by God as I was being in this ashram in India. And so I learned 5 elements breathwork, which is doing rebirthing in 5 different environments. So most people are used to the air element. So that means that you just lay down or you sit up and you breathe as deep as you can for an hour and a half. That's what rebirthing is initially. So you can do that again in 5 different environments. So imagine doing deep breath work for an hour, buried in the ground up to your neck.
Wow.
It's
Super
intense,
preppy.
totally. Oh yeah, exactly. And then you can also do this style of breath work in a warm bathtub, which might be one of the most intense experiences of your life. And that's why it's called rebirthing, because when you do breath work in a warm bathtub, it feels like you're coming out the womb again. It's super intense because you're already in the heat and you're breathing super intense. So people tend to have psychedelic experiences and feel like they're coming out their mother's womb again when
Probably
they.
very therapeutic if they had like a traumatic entrance into the world or something, and they maybe needed to get a new experience.
I sure did. I mean, luckily I was a happy baby. I still look like a baby, I think, but I, I was pretty happy baby, um, but I had a C-section. My mom, I was a cesarean baby. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, and I didn't want to come out the womb. I love the womb so much, I didn't want to leave.
Oh, yeah.
So those are 2 birth traumas. The cesarean babies, we didn't get the normal DMT release, or we didn't have that natural birth. So my head is shaped really nice, but C-section babies have they have like a hard time letting go of things, and either they want to be touched a whole bunch or they don't like being touched. I like being touched maybe too much, so maybe that's why I'm super cuddly. But but I'm also a late baby, so for example, people who have a hard time coming out of the womb, who don't want to come out the womb, they have a hard time waking up in the morning. And my whole life, I never liked the morning. I never liked waking up in the morning.
Interesting.
I remember, yeah, because when you're sleeping in bed, it's like the womb. You're being reborn every morning. So the way you wake up in the morning parallels the way you came out of the womb. So people, for example, people who had a really smooth, easy birth, where it was a natural birth, they had no issues, they came right out. Those people have a very easy time waking up in the morning. People who are born like a month early, people who are born really early, they have like a hard time sleeping at night.
Oh,
They have it rough, premature babies. And so every birth trauma has a different sort of personality defect. Babies who have the umbilical cord wrapped around their neck, those are the babies, they were like literally trying to commit suicide in the womb, so they don't feel very safe. Or sometimes babies will have the umbilical cord wrapped around their wrist. They feel like they're in shackles, like they're trapped. So every birth trauma, like I said, it parallels a personality defect. But I like to say truly we can work through anything. Luckily, with the rebirthing breathwork, you don't have to be stuck in your birth trauma. And that's why rebirthing breathwork is so appropriately titled rebirthing. You know, it's not some cheesy new age term. It's like you're literally rebirthing your consciousness through these types of practices. And I had a client the other day who I trained to facilitate rebirthing, and on day 2 we did breathwork in the warm bathtub, and he went super deep. It was such a pleasure and an honor to teach people, you know, these practices. And my buddy James, he went really deep in the tub, and when he came out of it, he was like, I think I released the anesthesia that was stuck in the base of my spine from my birth.
Wow.
And that's what he experienced. That's what he said. That's what he experienced. Because also doing anesthesia can also mess up the mother and the child. I mean, giving a child that kind of drug that early, that's pretty gnarly, you know. And drugs can get lodged in our system for decades, you know. And when you do this style of breath work, one reason people get woozy is because sometimes they're releasing old anesthesia that's stuck somewhere in their body.
Oh, so there's the earth, and then there's the water, and what are the other ones? How are they?
And then we have the fire. So you can lay down next to a fireplace, and
Oh,
if you
cool.
feel the heat, it's so good. I like to say that's my cloud 9. It's one of the most blissful things in my life is doing breath work next to a fire, because as you know, just sitting next to a fire is it's very healing, it's very blissful, it's very therapeutic. And then breath work also very blissful. So when you're breathing deep next to a fire, it's like, wow, I've never felt so good in my life. And it also cleanses the auric field. There's 2 ways to cleanse the auric field: through salt water or through fire. And when you're doing the deep breathing with salt water or fire, not only are you cleansing the auric field, but you're cleansing deeper aspects of your body and your consciousness. So that's the fire. Fire, amazing. That's something I should do every day. Working with fire is also great for childhood trauma, and breathing next to a fire is also great for addictions. So if you have any any addictions, you can just breathe next to a fire, and they'll start slowly melting away over time. And then breathing sitting down or laying down. That's for the earth element. That's just your regular breath work for the heart. That's why breath work is a heart expanding technique. And then for the throat or for the ether element, you can do breath work in a hammock, which feels like you're floating or flying. And it's really great for religious trauma, or if you want to connect to God up in the sky or the angels, then you can do breath work in a hammock and feel weightless. And it's quite peaceful.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, just a couple points. I mean, my late husband, he did a trade. He does structural integration, and I'm trained in doing that as well. And actually through that, that's how I had my Kundalini kind of awakening, was through the body work, because it awakens your lower energy, you know, and all your different chakras, and opens you up. And mine was a little early and kind of accidental, but changed my path. But he did a trade early on with someone who did rebirthing. And it's funny because as you were talking, it came to me like, oh, he was into that. And so it just kind of connected the
Wow.
dots for me on that. I haven't actually tried it, so I'm curious to try it. But I did spend some time in India, and I felt I could live there too, and in the Himalayas. And it was just incredibly healing. And we would do 2 hours a day of deep breath healing, which I had, you know, I'd never done that long of deep breathing for, you know, an hour at a time in the morning and an hour in the evening. And it was so transformational and so healing. It really gives you the time to sit with yourself, to be with yourself, to let go of things, accept things, and move beyond them. And it almost seems like, I call it like breaking up the matrix, when you breathe so deep that sometimes it almost like it gets shimmery, or you feel like maybe you're losing ground. Or have you ever had those kind of experiences?
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely breathed to the point where I go into what I call a breath-induced lucid dream. It can be quite
Okay.
psychedelic. And if I'm able to focus my mind, I can go into a particular dream. If not, subconscious stuff just comes up. But things definitely seem psychedelic and beautiful with a lot of deep breathing. And You know, it's very interesting that you mentioned your late husband, because it was actually my late wife who found breathwork and gave it to me. So I wouldn't be able to do this practice if it wasn't for her. And I'm really and ironically, it helped me move through my grief and my trauma, and also to keep her legacy alive. You know, teaching this stuff it makes me feel like you know, she'd be really proud, and I would teach this stuff anyway, but it was definitely her intention to share this practice with many people.
Beautiful, and I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm happy that you found a way to navigate through it. I think it's so powerful when you can, you know, India helped me so much because it was like, why are you suffering? You know, lack of acceptance of what happened. And I thought, well, that's
Mm,
true, you know, and just not
yeah,
wanting to accept the reality that I was now living in. But being given
yeah,
the tools to be able to heal and move through that and then help others in their own life. That's really beautiful. I'm happy to hear that
it's
you
quite a
found.
thank you. It's a gift within the trauma. You know, it's sad, it's happy, it's beautiful, it's heartbreaking. It's like range of
Bittersweet, you know.
emotions. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think that we can use breath work to, you know, move through these traumas, release these blockages, and maybe even connect with our higher self or maybe God? Or
Yeah, I think that's what pranayama is. I think that's a side effect of doing pranayama. I Deep pranayama, or the breath work. That's what happens. We release traumas and blockages just naturally, and then when we don't have all that gunk in the way, we're able to communicate with our higher self. It's just what happens. When you have a trauma, whether it's a birth trauma or something in childhood or in our adult life, we lose a piece of our soul when and where it happened. It actually lingers in that place. That's what happens metaphysically. Physically, we get a blockage in our body. So when we do heavy breath work, naturally our spirit just goes to where the trauma happened and retrieves a piece of our soul. And that's what happens metaphysically. And then physically, the blockage opens up in our body. So in my opinion, deep breathing is the ultimate way to heal traumas. I think it's beyond plant medicine. I think it's way beyond therapy. In fact, I think that I'm not a huge fan of a lot of therapy unless it's proactive, because if it's not proactive therapy and you're just talking about your problems, you can get stuck. You'll actually reinforce your issues by talking about them all the time. You're not releasing them. But if you're doing breath work, you can talk about them once or twice, do your breath work, it'll be released. You won't feel the need to talk about it over and over again.
yeah, yeah, no, I agree. And it helps you kind of move beyond that and in a way also heal your physical temple because you said like you have something blocked within you that could later manifest into something negative, but instead you're opening up and bringing more light and prana into your body.
Exactly.
Wow. Does breath work also work to detox our bodies?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We detox 70% of toxins out of our breath,
Wow.
20% out of our sweat, and the other 10% are from the lower chakras. And so if you do like a fast, like a juice fast or a water fast, and you do breath work on the fast, it's super intense, it's super gnarly. It's very detoxing. So breath work doesn't just detox emotions; it actually physically detoxes us. So it's really important to breathe deep. That's why a lot of people, when they get into breath work, they'll start losing weight because, well, mainly because they're getting rid of emotional blockages, and usually where people who are overweight, they just have emotional issues. But also you start detoxing physical stuff, so your energy flows better and you just feel thinner and happier.
I find the same through the body work too, because you hold emotional traumas within your body, your wounds, and then as you heal and move through it, then like you can release, you know, just excess stuff that you didn't realize you were holding on to. Um,
Definitely.
yeah. So, what is your favorite like breathing technique that you personally like recommending to others, or that you like practicing on the regular?
I really like rebirthing. No retention, just deep breathing. But I also really like
Just breathing in and out deeply, or
yeah, we can call it conscious connected breathing. So it's just you're expanding your ribs when you inhale to the, I like to say to the max, or maybe 98%, and then relax when you exhale, and you do it at your own pace. So it's kind of like,
Okay.
and that's it. And you just keep doing that deep. That's yogic breathing, pranic breathing. But I also like other forms of pranayama, like Bastrika pranayama, which is very similar to Wim Hof breathing, but it's a little faster. And then you just do 10 deep breaths, and then on the 11th breath, take a deep breath and hold your breath for as long as you can. And then after you hold your breath, you slowly exhale, and that's one round. So you can do like 3 rounds in a row. And that's also very potent, very powerful. But that's not going to necessarily release trauma, maybe a little. That's more just going to strengthen your nerves, your heart, your mind.
But so when you go into an hour and a half session, are you strictly doing the rebirthing, or do you combine different pranayamas?
No, I'm just strictly doing rebirthing, especially when I teach it to people, just to not confuse it or not muddy the waters. For me personally, sometimes I'll do a little pranayama in the beginning. Maybe I'll do a couple breath holds for the first 10 minutes. And then after that, I just do rebirthing the whole time. Because ideally, you don't want to hold your breath after you've been breathing deep for about an hour. You only want to hold your breath within the first like 15-minute block. And then after that, your heartbeat's going to be super fast. So it won't kill you to hold your breath in the middle of the session, but we don't want to hold our breaths just to create good habits.
Okay. And is there like a specific environment that people should practice these in? Like, is your home okay, or would you recommend doing it under the guidance of someone like you when they're first starting out? Gentle music, no music? What's your kind of, what do you recommend?
Yeah, it's a great question. I always encourage people to do it on their own, but through my experience, I think it's a really good idea to have a facilitator the first time you do rebirthing. It really is. It makes a massive, massive difference. Most people just aren't. They're just not gonna do it for an hour and a half.
Right.
Maybe they'll pass out. Maybe they'll get bored.
Uh-huh.
A number of things. And you can do this in your home, but it's highly recommended to have really good airflow. So just make sure that you have the windows open, that you have outside air coming in and out, just so good air can come in and bad air can leave. And I say, once you learn the technique, then do it on your own a whole bunch. As long as you know you got it down, then I would say definitely do it on your own when you're comfortable. Some people aren't comfortable the first 5-10 times, and then they're like, okay, I think I got it. So everybody's different.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I noticed like I had done meditation and breath work, but never for an hour or anything like that. And I haven't done an hour and a half yet. But it was the container kind of that helped me access that, and I bet that doing it in nature too is probably to the next level too, with the fresh mountain air or wherever you're at.
So it's so good to do it outside in nature. I mean, when you have that much fresh air, you're just like, it's doing the breath work really helped me appreciate nature more, because I grew up in the suburbs, so nature was, I didn't really like get it till I was in my 30s, and I'm like, oh, nature. and the breath work definitely helped me with that, help me connect to my natural self and the beautiful world around me.
Beautiful. And through breathing, can we access our parasympathetic nervous system, and kind of how can that help us calm and change in our lives?
Yeah, I think after you do deep breathing for like an hour, I believe your parasympathetic nerve is really activated because you feel calm after the breath work. So that seems to be a recurring theme.
Wow. And what's kind of the difference between, is there a difference, I guess, or what is the difference, if there is, between meditation and concentration?
So depending on how we define the word meditation, in the West, the word meditation has a life of its own. It's almost a little meaningless. A lot of people in the West, well, and we have to get on everybody's level. We have to use the word meditation in a way so people understand it. So usually when people say the word meditation in the West, they're just talking about going internal. They're talking about closing their eyes and doing a meditation practice. In the East, or in the Vedic system, meditation means letting go. And what it really entails in the Eastern perspective is that you can focus on one thing without letting your mind wander. That's meditation proper, as we would call it. So that could take decades or lifetimes to achieve. There's something called the 8 limbs of yoga, and they can be looked at as steps to samadhi, which is the 8th limb of yoga. But the 7th limb of yoga is meditation, or dhyana. Like I said, it also means letting go. And then so you have these 6 limbs of yoga that prepare the body for what we would call meditation proper. It's very different than the way we use the word meditation in the West. So I'm going to go over these 6 limbs of yoga that prepares the body for the 7th limb. And if you hit the 7th limb, then one day you can hit the 8th limb of yoga, which is samadhi, or liberation. So I'll just go over these really quick. So the first limb of yoga is be good to yourself. Second limb of yoga, be good to other people. Third limb of yoga is asanas, or stretching. Fourth limb of yoga is pranayama, or breath work. Fifth limb of yoga, that's withdrawal of the senses, or going internal when we close our eyes. Now the 6th limb of yoga, that's concentration. So a lot of times in my practice, I'm technically not meditating, depending on how we use the word. I'm doing limbs 5 and 6. I'm going internal and I'm working on concentration. And then the 7th limb of yoga would be meditation. And that means that we can focus our mind perfectly and no thoughts enter. Again, that could take decades or lifetimes to achieve. And then if you can perfectly focus on the moment, then in theory, we can go into samadhi, which is perfect liberation. We're no longer worried about the past or the present. So, I mean, I'm just a regular dude. I don't know if I've ever done real meditation, but the way I use the word meditation is just like, oh, it's my internal practice. And I think a good way to describe meditation, or to verbalize meditation, we could call it our meditation practice. We're practicing towards meditation. But again, the word meditation means something very unique in the West, and we have to respect that just to get on people's level so we can communicate properly.
And maybe people aren't ready for all the 8 limbs, but they can do a guided meditation and at least still go within and experience
Exactly.
some sort of the benefits. But I know
totally.
Like the flame meditation. So then you would focus on one point, or there's different ways that you can kind of use different practices to kind of concentrate your mind.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And my meditation practices lately, it's been mantras. I got the message to work with Lakshmi. So I say Om Lakshmi before I go to bed now, and in the morning. And it's really interesting the way she brings that sort of abundant energy, and not just with money, but like with people and love and family. And I feel like that Lakshmi meditation for me has been really amazing. But like you said, a flame meditation also really excellent. My business partner is right now she's engaging in flame meditation every day, actually. And she says it's really cool. So she has so she stares at a flame as she does this elemental Sanskrit flame mantra, and it's helping with her concentration. She said it's really cool.
Wow. So this is like, I have my Lakshmi there, and I bought that before I even knew who she was. It was in like an Egyptian store here in Oaxaca, where I live. And then when I went to India, I bought like a journal and it had Lakshmi on it, but I didn't know who she was. And then they were celebrating the darkness over light, and Lakshmi was included in this process. And she just kept showing up in my life. And I was like, who is Lakshmi? And so then I started looking into her. So I have a great affinity for her as well.
That's amazing.
That's neat. So what would you say what's the difference between maybe breathing through our chest versus breathing through our belly, and maybe breathing through our mouth versus breathing through our nose?
So breathing through the nose develops better habits. It's really good for our brain, for our facial structure. Breathing, all yogis breathe intensely through the nose. Breathing through the mouth brings in more prana. And during a breathwork session, if I have someone breathe through the mouth for a little bit, it creates more of an emotional release. So most people, they have big psychedelic experiences when they breathe through the mouth. But we want to breathe through the nose mainly for good habits. So, and the way we do rebirthing is that we breathe from the belly to the ribs to the chest. And really what you're doing is you're breathing simultaneously. So we don't want to do just belly and we don't want to do just chest. We actually want to do both at the same time. So holotropic breathing, a lot of times for beginners, they'll have a 2-part breath. It'll be like, but for rebirthing, we just turn that into one swift breath all through the nose.
A 3-part breath.
Yeah, or a 3-part breath is also for beginners, just to get it down. But once you get it down, turn that into one big breath. And the way my teacher describes it, the easiest way to expand our belly and chest simultaneously is that we're just expanding the ribs.
Okay.
So you can see like my stomach inflates, but so does my chest when I expand my ribs. So we want to breathe through we want our diaphragm, we want our lungs to expand in every aspect, from the bottom to the top to the side. So we just want it to grow as big as we can. And the more we expand our lungs, the more we expand our consciousness. Because intuition comes from the breath. So in other words, whenever you can breathe deep, you have really good intuition. People who breathe shallow tend to have very poor intuition. That's why anybody who has anxiety, and I mean anybody who deals with anxiety, they're shallow breathers 100% of the time. So a lot of times anxiety is going to clear up once you start breathing deep all the time.
Beautiful. I think that's really helpful for a lot of people, because I think sometimes they're looking for a quick fix or something when it could just be free within your own body.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious, how did you come up with the name Aquarian Alchemy? I have some ideas kind of maybe with the age that we're living in, maybe how breathwork and these things can take you through an alchemical journey, but how did that kind of come to be?
You said it. It was a name I gravitated towards because definitely the age of Aquarius. And I'm really interested in practical alchemy, which is like making tinctures and ormus and things like that. And then the inner alchemy, which is, your breath work, your meditation, and the social alchemy is dealing with different people and helping create the life of your dreams with the help of other people. So alchemy just means the art of transformation. And truly, everybody's an alchemist from one perspective, and we all live in the age of Aquarius. So in a way, Aquarian alchemy is like the most generic term. Like, we're all alchemists in the age of Aquarius. And I just think it has a nice ring to it. And nobody had bought it yet. So I was like, oh, I'm taking that.
Brilliant. So. No, I love it. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's a really lovely name. And I've used we sell alchemical products, and then my first cookbook was an alchemical transformation. And so I really resonate with like and through your own life, you go through, like you said, your own alchemy of, dealing with different phases and, ideally, reaching samadhi or that state of gold, if you will.
The art of transformation. Are you familiar with the Philosopher's Stone? Or
yeah, I have.
Cool.
William, I forget his last name. I have some of his books but love all that, definitely. And
turns out the Philosopher's Stone is made by aging urine. So
wow, yeah. We have it within ourselves.
The aging process, whether you're aging urine or kombucha, you're fermenting these liquids to make something very potent. It parallels fermenting our body with breath work, cleansing our body and changing our bodies alchemically, parallels the way we create kombucha or beer or whatever your thing is, because we're like, metaphorically, we're fermenting our body to make something very powerful when you do these practices such as breath work, fasting, and meditation.
And so how did you, or would you say you could also, like, I know there's the term like the rise of the phoenix. Would you say like you could overcome a dark night of the soul, or, kind of rise again through these practices?
Yeah, I mean, when my wife passed away, Cassie, I never felt pain in that way. And she was so nice and so beautiful, and brought me the breath work and all kinds of things. And I guess that was my dark night of the soul, just the sadness that I was experiencing. And then once I got mustered up the strength to start breathing more, I remember just starting to feel more at peace and physically strong, and I just started feeling better in general. And and here I am, able to talk about these things and teach it, and experience happiness, and experience a level of being content. And
Yeah.
and yeah, I love the Phoenix.
Oh, that's beautiful. And so how did you come into ice baths and like and finding that, and how have you found that it's helped you transform? I saw that you went on a trip to Sweden and you were in the ice. How did you overcome the mind-body connection of, oh, I'm cold and freezing, to being without a shirt and meditating in those atmospheres?
Well, ironically, what drove me to the ice was the same thing that drove Wim Hof to the ice. It was losing my wife, and I was interested in the ice baths before she passed away, but once she did, it was like a big calling. Like I knew it was going to help me. I could feel it. So I purchased a little ice chest freezer at Costco, and started taking these ice dips. And in the middle of my grief, when I would get into the ice, I was able to function. I After I got out the ice, I was still pretty sad, but I was like, it's going to be okay. And because the ice, doing ice baths, it's not just good for your nerves and your immune system. It does profound things to your happiness, to your happy chemicals, to your mood. Someone could be really depressed, and if they jump in the ice, they're going to get out and be a little less depressed. So, so I've been doing the ice for 6 years now,
Wow.
at my own leisure, and it's definitely helped me function. It's given me a level of physical strength that is also profound. If I have any like back pains, or I don't know, I don't really get hurt that often, but any sort of physical pain, the ice bath does miracles to it. You can literally, like, we don't have to age like everyone else. If everybody took ice baths all the time, and I know that's very unrealistic, but if one was to take ice baths for the rest of their life, they're going to function incredibly forever,
Wow.
like for as long as they live. And so I'm actually a Swedish citizen, so my parents live in Sweden. So I go there once a year.
Oh, okay. I
And
wasn't sure what like kind of drew you there.
yeah. My dad's American, and my mom's Swedish, and they're still together. And they have this beautiful little house on the island of Orust, which is outside of Gothenburg. And I love being over there. I have a lot of great musician friends, and the nature there is incredible. Amanita muscaria grows there, and and yeah. So this last winter was really magical because I started shooting more content while jogging. It was kind of fun. And then I dug a hole in the lake, which was like, I felt like a kid. I felt like
Yeah.
like a child, like playing in nature. I've never experienced anything like that. Even when I was a kid, I didn't love nature in the way that I do now. So um, that was really awesome. I never knew I could run around without a shirt. I was like, wait, what? Why am I wearing clothes? I can tolerate the cold. Like, what am I doing? So I was like, oh God, this is really easy. And it'd be funny, like running around without a shirt, and you hear like the Swedes yell at me. They'd say, in Swedish, they say, "Are you crazy?"
Right,
I was
right.
like,
Yeah, where should we
"Hello,
turn?
hi." That was really amazing, and I mean, geez, when you can, a lot of people get really depressed in the winter because they're not embracing the cold. They're not embracing the nature. And and I get it, because like, if you're not working on your breath, and you're not taking cold baths, and you're not getting any sunlight, well, natural law will have you be depressed. That's just the nature of being human. We need these happy chemicals. So if you don't get sunlight, but you take a lot of Amanita muscaria, and you take a lot of ice baths, and you do a lot of breath work, and you do some journaling, that the winter can be blissful. It can be profoundly healing. It can really put you in touch with your subconscious mind. You can help manifest things for the year to come. I love the winter. It's my happy place. I can't tell you, like, the bliss I feel being in the cold. It's so good. But most other people, they despise the cold. They're like, oh,
Right.
so I get it.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. I think you probably inspired a lot of people to want to take an ice bath or at least try it out. I minimally do
I
at
hope
least
so.
cold showers, because I read that, like if you the things that maybe you don't want to do are actually what bring you happiness, right? Like
Mm.
when you go to it. So were you always an entrepreneur, or were you working in an office before, or how did that shift kind of happen?
Wow, no one's ever asked me that. Originally, I'm a sound engineer. I'm a musician, and I love to work in studios, and I love mixing live gigs. So I did that most of my life, and then when after I beat cancer 10 years ago, and I got deeper into thanks. I got deeper into the healing arts, and I was able to mix like my love of music with breathwork, because I really appreciate helping people heal themselves, showing people how they can heal themselves. I thought that was not just like a noble thing, but to me, it just felt right, because I didn't like I didn't have anyone. I've had some people show me healing modalities here and there, like my breathwork teacher Mahesh, my good friend Joe Dolezal showed me amazing things about consciousness, but besides those two people, I mean, I've had a plant medicine facilitator here and there show me a couple things, but besides that, I never had anyone come up to me and be like, "Here's a plethora of natural healing techniques." So I love providing that for people. Like, here's a bunch of healing stuff. Take what you want, and and so once I got into the healing arts, that became really cool, and there's so much there. There's so much, like, there's so many great ways to heal ourselves that just aren't mainstream yet, or they're slowly becoming mainstream. So it's felt really good, like, sharing, the cocoa bear, the frozen coconut, and sharing breathwork with people, uh, and sharing Amanita with people, and sharing this with people, and that, and slowly I'm just like, okay, well, I got to make a living. I have all these different outlets, so let me just continue to share it. So the entrepreneur thing happened kind of naturally. It happened very organically. I wasn't like, I didn't grow up saying I'm going to be an entrepreneur, but I realized I had so much to share with people, so I'd be selfish if I didn't share these things.
That's beautiful. Do you have any advice on others that maybe want to become an entrepreneur, start their own business, or follow their passion or their dharma, like how they could create kind of more purpose in their life?
Yeah, buy a book called Think and Grow Rich by
Great
Napoleon
book.
Hill.
Yeah, have it
Start with
right
that.
here.
Oh, nice. Oh, amazing, amazing. And so that book is, that's where I really understood auto-suggestion, was from that book. That was a missing piece in my arsenal. I knew about mantras, but I didn't realize how you really manifest things through conscious repetition. So that helps for sure. But then, okay, you read that book, it's like, okay, now what? You have to. You'll hear this a lot. You have to do something that you love, because it translates. When you do something you love, people feel it. They're like, oh wow. And then the other thing is, you have to find something that people want.
Sure.
So if you find something that you love that people want, roll with that, and that's what I would say. And it's going to be a lot harder selling snake oil. It's going to be a lot harder selling something that you don't believe in. You know,
Right.
you could try, oh, I don't know. But then I think at the end of the day, people who work with like oil companies or people who work in the medical industry, a lot of times when their consciousness catches up to them, they're like, my life is a sham.
Yeah,
Like
you
I've been
shift.
I've been
Yeah,
selling things I don't believe in, you know, and if it unless you numb out for the rest of your life,
yeah,
if you're in touch with your subconscious mind, your guilt will catch up with you. So just do what you love and do what people want.
yeah.
Find that niche and spread it around the world. And this is such an interesting time with social media.
Oh, yeah.
Advertising on the internet a trips me out still. I'm still learning how this whole thing works, and I'm getting better, but it's a
Same.
process.
Same. I'm constantly, yeah, trying to learn new ways and show up differently or, more authentically. Yeah. So how do you think that lucid dreaming and like rebirthing, do you see it becoming more mainstream as we're kind of shifting into the future and into these into more awakened times, if you will?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we even though I wasn't alive in the 60s, we kind of saw the rise of um, the stretching aspect of yoga, asanas. So we saw the exercise portion of yoga become very mainstream. And I mean, even in my lifetime, I was born in 84. So
Me to
I've
say.
seen it be, yeah, yeah. So we've seen it like be this niche thing, and now it's on like movies and TV shows, and it's practically a joke. You know, it's become like a running joke of like, you know, every new age comedy is going to have a yoga scene, right? Of someone stretching. So I think we're seeing that with pranayama now. I think we're seeing breath work really become this mainstream thing. And I think Wim Hof is
Mhm.
also a big, uh, you know, endorser, advocator of breath work. But the cool thing with breath work is that it's a little harder to exploit because of the profound healing that happens with pranayama or breath work. When you do a little stretching or do a lot of stretching, you're not necessarily going to heal like deep emotional traumas, maybe some, but with the breath work, you are going to start healing deep emotional traumas. You are going to start becoming really empowered. So to see like a technique like pranayama go mainstream and empower, you know, thousands or millions of people, that's awesome. You know, that's hard to exploit because it works. You know, it's very healing and expansive. Um, and then lucid dreaming, a little more niche. I think that's going to slowly catch on. I think that when people get into more breath work and more forms of concentration and meditation, and people start becoming lucid, hopefully they'll piece it together and they'll say, "Oh wow, my meditation practice caused me to be lucid." Because I talked to like thousands of people about lucid dreaming, and a lot of people they're not sure why they go lucid. Like, oh, I've been lucid before, and then I'll start asking them questions to find out why they became lucid. I was like, oh, were you fasting at this time? I was fasting, you know? Or, oh, I became lucid when I was doing my mantras every day. Well, there you go. Or I was lucid when I was waking up in the morning, you know? Well, there you go. So I think most people don't know why they become lucid, but I think over time, because consciousness is evolving, I think we'll start seeing more people get into lucid dreaming, and yeah, I can only hope.
So you have a 5-week course, and what does that entail?
Yeah, so I created this course called Breathwork and Lucid Dreaming 101. Anybody who's interested, they can find it on my website, aquarianalchemy.org. So this is a 5-week course, and every week is a different subject that slowly builds on top of itself. So the course, every week there's a lecture, and every week there is a breathe along audio track that you do early in the morning. So listen to the lecture, and then at like 4 or 5 in the morning, hit play on your audio track, and I'll say, okay, take deep breaths, and you just breathe along with my voice. And then at the end of the breath work, I tell people they can focus on something. So week 1 is just about dream recollection. Week 2 is the difference of meditation and concentration. Week 3 is about visualization. Week 4 is about dream incubation or implanting the dream of your choice. And week 5 is about lucidity and what you can do once you're lucid. So for example, I'll just give you guys like a little peek into my course. Week 4 is about dream incubation. So to incubate the dream of your choice, after you breathe along with the audio track in the morning, then I say, now visualize the dream of your choice for the next 30 minutes. So you sit there and you visualize one scene from the dream that you would like to have for 30 minutes. If your mind wanders, just come back and keep visualizing it. So if you visualize that scene every morning and right before you go to bed, eventually you'll dream about that image or that particular dream that you would like to dream about. So that's part of the course. And yeah, it's really fun. It's one of a kind. I've gotten really good feedback on it. And I feel like there's a lot of people teaching lucid dreaming. There's a lot of people teaching breath work, but very rarely do I see people blend the two. And this is westernized yoga. This is very neo yoga in a very moral and ethical way, in a very grounded way. Because an atheist could take this course and get a lot out of it, or an advanced Western yogi could take this course and get a lot out of it. So I made it, I made it non-dogmatic. I don't use words like Kundalini, God, spirit, psychicism. I leave those words out of this course so people can just have a grounded perspective on their internal journey.
It's beautiful. Well, I've really enjoyed talking with you and learning from you. Is there anything else on your heart that you want to share today?
Just breathe deep and love life.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here, and I'll make sure to have your links below so people can check out your course and hopefully join and continue on their path to transform alchemically and ascend.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This was a blast, and I really appreciate you. And you're super easy to talk to, and I appreciate all the questions. And yeah, you're doing such great work. So thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you all for tuning in today. I hope that you found this podcast informative, enlightening, and maybe you learned something new. Let me know in the comments below what you liked the best. And this podcast has been brought to you by me. Seventh Planet Broadcasting, and you can support the channel by buying alchemical elixirs over at geraldclark77.com or artisticvegan.com. You can also find all of Gerald's books and even his genealogy table. In addition to that, we have online courses for Gravity Body Academy, and those are now even offered with payment plans. And if you don't see one that works for you, always shoot me an email because I'm flexible. And the most important thing is that you are empowered to be the own hero of your own life. And so that's what these podcasts are here for, to empower you, to lift you up, as well as all of our products that we offer. They're made to enlighten, to educate, and to raise your energy. So thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you next time. You can also practice yoga online with me over at KristaJClark.com or on my channel, Krista J. Clark on YouTube. There's free classes and there's also paid offerings as well. Thank you again for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Oh yeah.